Tonight, a slow story from an old canal at dusk, about a boatman, his family, their bright painted boat, and the last few miles home, with no reason on earth to hurry. The evening came down gold and still on the water, and Walter brought his boat home along it slow. There was no wind. The canal lay flat and shining as a long ribbon of poured light, gold where the low sun was on it, rose grey where it wasn't, and the painted boat slid down the middle of it so smoothly and so slow that it hardly seemed to move at all. Only the long ripple peeling back from the front of it and the slow drift of the reeds going by told you it moved at all. It was a long boat, and a narrow one, painted all over the way those boats were. Bright flowers and little castles in red and green and gold along the cabin sides, kept fresh and gleaming, because the boat was their home, and a person keeps their home nice. Walter steered from the back of it, with his hand easy on the long steering arm, doing almost nothing, only keeping her straight, letting the boat carry itself down the still water, the way it had carried his family up and down these waters all their lives. Up ahead on the path along the bank walked the horse. Old Duke, who had pulled this boat more miles than anyone could count, leaned into his collar and plodded along the dirt path at the edge of the water, slow and steady, his big feet falling soft and even, the long rope running back from him to the boat in a low, easy curve that dipped now and then to touch the water and lift again. He knew the way home as well as Walter did. He did not need telling, and he did not hurry, and no one wanted him to. From the little chimney on the cabin roof, a thread of blue smoke went up straight into the still air, and with it came the smell of supper. Ada had the stew on the small stove down in the cabin, cooking slow all afternoon, and the smell of it drifted back over the water, warm and good. And on the front of the boat sat their boy, Tom, 7 years old, watching the way ahead, because his father had said they would be home by dark, and Tom wanted to be the first to see it. There were still a few miles to go, and they went them slowly. There was no other way to go them. A boat pulled by a walking horse goes at the pace. A horse walks, and not a step faster. And a horse at the end of a long day walks slow. And so the whole evening moved at the pace of old Duke's plodding feet, which was, Walter had long ago decided, exactly the right pace for an evening to move. The world came by slow enough to see all of it. A heron stood in the shallows on one leg, grey and still as a post, and watched the boat go by without troubling to move. The reeds parted at the front of the boat and closed again behind. A small water bird kept pace a while along the bank, then lost interest and dropped behind. Off across the darkening fields, a farm dog barked once, far away, and gave it up. Here and there, a cottage stood back from the water with its windows going gold one by one as the lamps were lit inside, and once a woman taking in her washing raised a hand to them, and Walter raised his, and nothing was said, because nothing needed saying. Tom, up at the front, was finding the slowness hard. He could see the canal running on ahead into the dusk, bend after bend and no sign of home yet, and he wanted to be there. "Can't Duke go any faster?" he called back along the boat. Walter said no. Duke could not and would not, and there was no call for it. "We'll be home when we're home," he said. "There's no hurry on the water." And Tom let out the long sigh of a boy who has been told there is no hurry, and turned back to the way ahead. But the slowness was working on him already, the way it works on everyone on the water in the end, and without quite meaning to, he stopped straining forward and began instead just to watch the evening go by. And it was a fine evening to watch. The gold was deepening on the water. The smell of the supper came and went. The horse plodded, and the boat slid, and the miles came slowly under them, one slow mile at a time. They had done the hard part of the day already. Hours back, in the heat of the afternoon. All down the long afternoon, they had worked the locks. The great heavy wooden gates that let a boat up and down the steps in the water, from one level to the next. And that was real work. Leaning the gates open and shut, letting the water in and out, easing the boat through one slow walled chamber at a time. But the locks were all behind them now. The last of them had been an hour back, and beyond it, the canal ran level and open and unbroken all the way home. Not a gate left to work, nothing left to do but drift. So now there was only the going. Walter felt the difference in it, the way you feel it when the last of the day's work is truly done, and what is left is only the sweetness. The long level water, the horse who knew the way, the warm boat, the smell of supper, his family aboard, and the dusk coming down kind and slow over all of it. Nothing left to do. Nowhere to be but here, going slowly home. A boat came the other way now and then, as boats did. Another family, another painted cabin, another horse on the path. And the two boats slid past each other, slow and careful on the still water. And the boatman lifted a hand, and a few easy words passed about the evening and the water ahead. And then each went on its own slow way into the dusk, and the quiet came back behind them, and the reeds, and the slow, steady fall of Duke's feet on the path, and the gold going out of the water, bend by bend. The light went the way it goes on a still evening, slowly, and then all at once. The gold left the water, and the water went silver, and the silver went grey, and then a deep, soft blue came up out of the fields and the trees and filled the whole evening. And the first star pricked out over the dark line of the hills. Along the banks the cottage lamps were all lit now, little warm squares of gold laid down on the darkening water, and the boat slid past them one by one, going home. Down in the cabin, Ada lit the lamp. Through the little round windows and the open cabin doors, the warm gold of it spilled up onto the deck, and the smell of the supper came up stronger now, the stew thick and ready, a loaf warming beside it. And it was the smell of the inside of their home, carried out onto the dark water. Ada came up the cabin steps and stood by Walter a while at the back of the boat, the two of them not saying much, watching the blue dusk and the lamplit banks go slowly by, the warm light of their own cabin glowing up between them. She had brought 2 mugs of tea up the steps with her, hot and strong, and she put one into Walter's free hand, and they drank it there together at the back of the slow boat, the steam rising off it into the cool night air. Down at the front, she had left a cup of warm milk by the sleepy boy, and he held it in both hands without quite drinking it, just for the warmth of it against his fingers. The boat went on, slow and steady, past the lamplit banks and the dark, quiet fields. And the tea went down warm, and the cabin glowed gold below them, and not one of them had anywhere else they needed to be. And Tom, at the front, had gone quiet. The watching for home had worn out of him, and the slowness had got into him at last, and he sat wrapped in a blanket against the cool that comes up off the water at night, his back against the warm cabin wall, no longer looking for the end of the journey, but just in it now, riding the slow boat through the blue evening, his eyes going heavy. The boat rocked, the smallest amount. The horse plodded, and a long way off, across the dark fields, a church bell rang the hour. Slow, and let the evening be. They came to the home bridge so gently that Tom never saw it after all. One moment the canal was running on through the dark as it had for miles, and the next there was the old low stone bridge they knew, humped over the water, and beyond it the field where they tied up, and they were home. Not with any rush, and no cry of, "There it is," but quietly, the way you come to the end of a thing you have done 1,000 times, almost without noticing you have arrived at all. Walter brought the boat in slow along the bank. Up on the path, old Duke slowed of his own accord, knowing the place, and stopped, and stood there, blowing softly, his work done. The boat slid the last of its way on the last of its own drift, and came to rest against the grassy bank with the softest bump, hardly a knock at all. Walter stepped off with the rope and tied her to the old post that had held her 100 nights before. And that was all there was to it. They were home. It had taken them the whole long evening to come the last few miles, and they had not hurried any of it. And not 1 minute of that slow going had been wasted, for it had been the best part of the day, that quiet drift through the gold and the blue. The arriving, now that it came, was only a small, soft, full stop at the end of it. Tom was nearly asleep where he sat. He had got his wish to be home, and had been too lulled by the slow going to notice it come true. Old Duke was seen to first, the way he always was. Walter slipped the harness off him and rubbed him down and and turned him loose into the home field beside the water. And the old horse walked a few steps into the deep, cool grass and put his head down and began to graze. His day's work done. And that was Duke happy. Then Walter went down into the cabin to his own. And the cabin was the warmest small place in the world. It was tiny. You could touch both walls of it at once, but it was theirs, and every inch was made to be lived in. The little stove glowing in the corner, the fold-down table, the bright painted cupboards, the lamp swinging gentle on its hook, the two narrow bunks built into the side. Ada had the supper dished up, the stew steaming in the bowls, the bread torn, and they ate it there together in the warm lamplight, the three of them, with the dark water lapping soft against the side of the boat, a hand's breadth away, close enough to hear, and no nearer. Tom was asleep before he was half done, the spoon going slack in his hand, and Ada caught the bowl, and Walter carried him to the little bunk and laid him down and pulled the blanket over him, and he did not stir. The boat swayed, the smallest amount, the way a tide boat always does. A slow, gentle rock you stopped noticing and then sank into. The stove ticked. The lamp burned low. Outside in the dark, the horse cropped the grass, and the water moved against the wood, and the home field lay quiet under the gathering stars. Walter and Ada sat on a while in the warm, not saying much, the way two people don't need to at the end of a good slow day. The boat rocked them, soft and slow. There was nowhere else to be, and nowhere else they wanted, and nothing left of the whole long day to do but let it rock them gently down towards sleep. The boat tied safe under the old stone bridge, rocking soft and slow on the dark, still water, the little stove glowing low, the lamp burning down, the boy asleep in his bunk, old Duke cropping the home grass out in the starlight, his long day done, and the slow boat come home at last, gently to rest, in no hurry even now, with all the warm night left to drift in.